Our next speaker is from very close by. He is a project coordinator mobility at the City of Bruges, and at the beginning of 2024, he started working on a big project, in order to make the station surroundings more accessible, so the train station surroundings, I mean. But that requires a lot of consultation, patience, and collaboration with the various partners. And I'm sure he will tell us all about it. Mr. Bart Slabbinck.
Goedemiddag iedereen. Bedankt dat ik hier het forum krijg om inderdaad...
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I was asked to tell stories about bridges. My name is Bart Slabbinck. I am a 42-year-old man. You can perhaps see that I'm gray and balding a bit, but I'm not sure if this has to do with this project. It might. Please conclude at the end. I work for the City Council of Bruges. I work for the mobility project. I work on the infrastructure projects in our city. I often collaborate with large or regional players, let's say the Flemish waterway, or with the agency, the Road and Traffic Agency. So perhaps you arrived in Bruges at the train station. However pretty our city is, how little attractive our neighborhood around the station. I know it's a chaotic and empty area, especially, well, as the entranceway to our city. We also have a few black dots. Here we can talk about cyclists who work, who drive on a double road, and sometimes they, well, they are part of an accident. And here we have 3 dangerous points in our roads. And this was actually the reason why our partner, the Road and Traffic Agency, the Flemish Road and Traffic Agency, that consulted us as a city, we cannot be against this. We are collaborating in this regard, and we have, of course, in this regard, also 3 extra ambitions added to this. We know it's very crowded during, for example, the Christmas period of 2018. I saw, we counted that there passed 2,100 people who walked by. So we need a very good bicycle and road structures here. So, well, for universal design, it was very important to be there. We're not only talking about people with a disability, but we're also talking about tourists who arrive with their luggages, or people with their baggies. So when we talk about the train station as an important connection point, we have to talk about this. And the 4th thing that was important for us was to make it an attractive arrival point to our city. Bruges is also, of course, a World Heritage City. And when you see the train station, you can see that it's at the, actually, the corner of the cultural heritage side. We also have actually the station square that's actually just outside the UNESCO buffer zone. It is part of the UNESCO buffer zone, so you know, this is actually one of the 7 qualities. So when we're talking about UNESCO qualities, we're talking about outstanding universal qualities. So it is important for the world. When you look around our train station, we can also talk about an attractive city. Bruges is not Bokrijk. The station does actually show many transformations that happened during the last 150 years. The cultural heritage values are also part of it. So these were also in the 19th century, in the time of in the Romantic area, actually, and we are talking about walking boulevards. It actually was part of the Romantic area, so it was no longer Bruges-la-Morte, but part of the Romantic area. These are all qualities we have to take into account. We also have to take the morphology into account. Before, of course, we had other necessities, and today we have different needs. In 2018, we started with this project, and we started with the Flemish methodology of the degree of basic accessibility. From that point onwards, we studied a lot. We looked at what is happening in this area. We defined the necessities, then we made a starting node. So we actually agreed upon a concept where we wanted to go with this area. Then we talked about the preferent concept. We continued to define it in design, in a design context. Now we are actually in the stage of design and architectural steps, and then later we will continue with the construction and building of this site. And here you can see that we actually are narrowing down. So first, as you can see, you look at the wide context and you go to one concept, and then you define it further and further, and then you make your project more and more accessible, and you actually embrace cultural heritage as well. So this is the theory. Let's now talk about the practice. In 2018, we started with actually the study. We looked into the square of the station. We did not only count 2,500 people, but we also talked about the train station, because it's a transit area. People just want to go to the inner city. People don't really sit there. People don't really play around. This is actually a missed opportunity. Not only bad things or there, actually the fact that it's actually a boring square. This creates actually the positive aspect that the inner city can be seen easily from the train station. Then we looked at the concept. The concept can sometimes, be very conceptual. Where will we put the network of cyclists and drivers? So like that, we tried to actually to put aside the difficulty between cyclists and people walking. So then we also went to look at the R20, where we should put them. We discussed where we would actually put the road for people walking. The first scenario we looked at was actually to put a bridge on a bridge. In Dutch we say a bridge on Bruges, so it's two words that are very similar. It's a nice alliteration. We actually put it next to the buildings, but the problem is that at the ring, we had to build a bridge of 7 meters. it's quite high, and this is not very accessible, of course, but you can see also that it goes quite high, and activating the square is not possible. What is under the bridge, well, is not possible to be activated because people will go over the bridge. When you look at this picture, you can see we are 9 or 10 meters even higher than this, because the morphology of the city is lower, and then you will walk between the trees. This is great to do in Limburg, but the morphology of the city of Bruges is different. A difference of 10 meters, well, when we talk about accessibility, this is not ideal. So then we looked at it from different angles and criteria. We looked at comfort, we looked at landscape, and environment, and then we saw that actually this was a very bad idea. We also had other alternatives, for example, a tunnel beneath it, because we had learned that, well, the landscape is about 2-3 meters lower, and then we could go under the ring, and then we could see that there were some chances there. This was the first image we made. There was stairs going down. But of course, accessibility-wise, we also had a road next to it going down. But of course, well, we were talking about 2,500 people that had to pass there. Of course, this is better than going up for 7 meters. When we talk about social security, you can see that there is actually a rabbit hole, and especially at night, well, a tunnel doesn't feel very socially secure. Well, we did think this had some possibilities, but this was not what we needed. Then we did a workshop with international experts in a European workshop, and they came with an out-of-the-box idea, and they said, let's build a car bridge. Well, they said, let's make a bridge, not a bridge that goes up and down, but, well, then you can actually make a wide passageway that you can put the square 4% in height, and then we will put the square further down in a wide lane that goes down, and we will only go down with 4%, and then you will create an open space. The social security, the openness is there. So here you can feel, there are more possibilities. You can also see it at the vista of Bruges as a cultural heritage site is also there. So then we thought, this is a concept we would continue with. The next step, as you saw, this is just a very rough picture. Well, now we went on to a design. So first we checked which kind of designs we could make. 4% is the universal design. This is a general project necessity. But if you work, for example, in this area, you cannot cut any trees, because we have trees that are over 150 years old. So these are the necessities. Well, not cutting trees, well, no. Qualitatively, well, we had to talk about the architecture. It had to be a very simple architectural design for us because of the integrity, because we wanted to keep the integrity of the surrounding area. We studied the whole file for over 2 years, because when we talk about accessibility and heritage, we want to go through actually the area of the West, and this is a very fragile landscape. We have to do this. We have to pass by with more than 2,000 people and foot who walk by in this area. So you need at least 4 meters. But then we also had to look at heritage. We didn't want to cut any trees. We also didn't want to change any of the morphology of the Westen. So then we had to work in a very tactile way. So every tree in the Westen got a passport. Then we looked at which ones we would keep, because some of the trees, were feeding themselves from the road, so we could not cut, we could not do anything there. Then the next stage was actually that we wrote, a we wrote out to a design that yes, this doesn't mean just we, AWV and the city, but we also worked with Inter, with Marieke. They were also working with us. Also heritage experts were working with us, and we wrote out a contest. And so, as you see, this was the final result. The concept, the passage was still there. You can see declination down. You can see how actually it's also going 1 meter higher. This was because we did not want to change the vista. You can also see that the square of the station is becoming a park. We don't want to have a transit space anymore, but a space that is nice to stay in. You can see the vista on the towers of Bruges is there. We also, there is also a fountain there, so that actually the vista of Bruges is again highlighted. Intuitively, it's also important to notice that this is also very important, because these are the lines that going to the parking, the kiss and ride, the inner city, etc. We did think about all of this in this design. At this stage, we're still not there. At this stage, we are actually looking into the design of several things. So in the minder hinder, we will also have to look out for walking lines. You cannot have an accessible train station in a year. No, also during the works, you have to think about not hindering too much and too much of the functionality. So what did we learn from the stations project in the long run? Well, it aligns with what we heard already today. First of all, work transdisciplinary. Today we also talked about multidisciplinary, but we want to go a step further. It's not only important that heritage, that regarding heritage people sit around the table, they also have to be able to talk a common language regarding Bruges. Not just doing things good, but also do good things. This is a project where that will be there for 50, 60 or 70 years, so everything has to align. Secondly, work iterative, so iterative planning. This is a very intensive job. This means iterative planning means, if necessary, start again, over and over again. So in the end, you might learn how it actually all works. Sometimes you might walk, with your head into the wall, but you might learn something. This is also something that UNESCO ICOMOS is asking us to do. They gave us a toolkit for heritage from the operational guidelines at ICOMOS, they are stating the following: how should we work with large building infrastructural projects? In their scheme, you can see that you work from a wider perspective to a slower, a narrower perspective. No, in the beginning, you can actually have the largest impact, because if we had chosen for a landscape project or bridge, we could not have, changed it. So Bruges was also the first city in Flanders who actually did a HIA, or Heritage Impact Assessment. If you want, you can take a look in it. I brought it with me. This is not a report. It's not something that is written and we put it in a cupboard and UNESCO can come and look into it. No, it's a project. We have written 2 reports. The first one was with the start notes. First, we worked with the passage. Then we said, well, we still have a few question marks, maybe a -1. Maybe we shouldn't, go with this tunnel here. But then ICOMOS also gave us some space. So in the contest phase, we actually could show that there is no impact where the question marks were. So also here is an iterative process, and this is very important, because when you're talking about heritage or accessibility, it's not just, it's not, just a piece of paper in your file, No, it's a continuous reflection. That's why I'm really thankful for else or accessibility, civil servant and other colleagues who are working with us, so that together we can put accessible heritage on the radar and not talk later. For example, in Venice, this happened in Venice with this amazing bridge. Well, then they said, well, we forgot about accessibility, so now we will build an elevator. No, this iterative process, bringing people together, for us was very, very important. And this is our 3rd lesson. And I think this is the most important lesson today. Well, talk to people, bring in experts, bring in people who live these things themselves. We did this during the whole procedure of our process. So also Kurt, for example, advised us so we could come up with a better project. This is also a good example, so that, because we started with a mobility project, but we made a city project of a mobility project, because when you talk about a mobility project, well, you have to say that the traffic needs to adapt to the city and not the other way around. This is also the European Commission that states this. They say that for a better quality of life, not for a better quality of traffic. No, it's about people, and we should never put this out of our perspective. People are actually the center of our perspective. This is an important paradigm shift. Someone from Herita talked about this morning. This is a paradigm, and this is part of the heritage world. You do not only talk about the object, but you should talk about the story of heritage. How can you make an interesting story regarding heritage? We're talking about the environment of the station. How, for me, the most beautiful city in the world, how can you make it a nice port to the city? And how can you make the skyline of the towers of Bruges, how can you make it part of the project? How can you make it even more beautiful? By putting, for example, a fountain at a strategic location. The same actually, is the case when we talk about the paradigm accessibility. We do not only do something paternalistic for people with lower accessibility. No, we are talking about accessibility. 2,500 people walking by in 1 hour. This is huge. Everyone will gain with a universal design. This is why this paradigm is important. This is a story I wanted to share with you. I think the most important is this: start with a good project, start with screening, because, well, when you talk about a dangerous points project, you might give solutions to the dangers, but then you might miss a lot of win-wins. I think in these projects we made a lot of win-wins. Thank you.
Dank u wel.
Thank you, Bart Slabbinck. I'm looking forward to pass through the most beautiful access point of the world with fountains and flowers next time I visit Bruges.